Hello, I'm the Bunnyman.
And I'm Crazzy Suzzy.
And we are in the Eyes of Terror. And I can't sing Pick Up Sticks for some reason.
No, it's just the horror version of it that you can't get.
Yeah, I started getting confused.
Yeah, you try to blend them together.
Maybe I should just do a remix.
Your version isn't scary.
It is if I just stand in the dark singing it. With a flashlight on my face. Like it's from the 90s camping. Ooh.
Sure.
Alright, we're on our last review of this bloody Valentine's month.
February, gonna be done.
Short month, bye-bye. See you next year.
The month that rips hearts out.
Yep. Run, Harry Warren's coming. I don't know.
I don't think it works that way.
I don't think so either.
He doesn't really come with a warning. He comes in the middle of the night.
He comes to parties. He's a party goer.
He's a party animal.
Talking about animals, we are doing pet.
Well, she's not technically an animal, but she's treated like one.
So, you want to do what are we drinking?
What are you drinking?
I was drinking water. I am now drinking another beer. So I am drinking Urban Artifact, the Gadget. It's a raspberry and blackberry Midwest fruit tart.
That sounds disgusting.
I hope it's okay. Designed by our taproom staff as an intricate experimental combining the explosive power of sour beer with the dangerous flavors of fresh fruit. Duck and cover.
That sounds like some pretentious something you won't let me say in a can.
Does this have to do with bull hockey?
Urine.
Ah.
It's a pretentious can of urine.
I hope it's not. Drink fresh. This Midwest fruit tart has 1,280 pounds of blackberries, 1,280 pounds of raspberries, and 30 grams of vanilla bean per 30 BBL batch. We do not recommend cellaring this beer.
Sullying.
No, cellaring. Like, don't put this in the cellar. I don't know what that means. Well, darling, I guess we just cannot put this in our cellar next to our fine wines that we get from the food city.
It needs to be drank. It needs to be drank soon.
Darling, how dare you sully the name of Barefoot Wines like that?
Yes, chemically aged wine. It's so fine.
It's right up there with...
It's like toxic pink.
Because
Fuchsia beer.
It goes well with this holiday.
You're going to dribble it all over your notebook. Too late. You are dribbling it all over your notebook.
It's like the bad version of the notebook.
And you got to get a napkin. You are so messy.
I am not messy.
You are being messy while you're saying you're not messy.
I am not messy. I am just the opposite of super clean. I am lived in.
Okay. This body is lived in. You missed some right there.
Alright. Am I ready? You want a sniffer? Sniffer.
It looks like...
Sniffer it.
It looks like fruit punch that's been left... Fruit punch from the 80s that's been left in the can. It kind of smells like... You got sticky on my hand.
It smells like...
Really cheap wine.
Yeah. Yeah.
In case you guys don't know, due to medication, I cannot consume alcohol. But I have a really good smeller, so...
It's okay. Sour.
Well, it did say on the can that it was sour beer.
Well, it's tart.
And
I know.
it's made with sour mash, and it has berries in it, so...
The second swig's not bad. So it has a lot of raspberry in it. Like, I know they equaled it out. I like the taste of blackberries more than I do raspberries.
Well, raspberries are usually more tart than blackberries.
It is sour, and I'm still trying to get used to sours, but I'm more of a... There's certain sours I do enjoy, I'll be honest. I do enjoy tart things too, just not this as much.
Just not in beer form?
No, I don't know. Like it needs some more, I don't know. I don't want to say it needs more sugar, it just needs... It seems like it needs something else. I can't put my tongue on it.
Maybe something like that would be good to put in ice cubes and freeze, and then...
You know, it'd be really good with. It would be really good if you had like a pie, like a blackberry or something like that pie, or a compote. And they compoted this.
A sorbet?
Or compote.
If you cook that, it's not going to taste the same as it does now.
Okay, maybe a sorbet. Or like if you just had like a cold fruit salad. And maybe do like just that has some like strawberry shortcake. Just put that on there. It might be good. Not a big fan. That's what I'm trying to get at.
No, I knew you weren't going to be a big fan when you read the label.
I thought I was going to be. I thought it sounded interesting and good because I like that one sour beer, and I like blackberries.
This looks like 30-year-old fruit punch. High C, whatever you want to call it.
I can't get past the taste. I mean, the smell. The smell really, does smell like really cheap wine. I mean,
30-year-old fruit punch.
No, 30-year-old fruit punch I think would just smell chemically.
It looks like 30-year-old fruit punch.
Yeah, but it doesn't smell like 30-year-old fruit punch because I imagine it would smell like chemicals. No, it just smells like cheap wine. And I give this a 2 out of 5, to be honest. I usually don't go that low. There's only a handful of beers I do. I'll finish it and probably throw out maybe a different nose would happen. I'm hoping. It's just, I only taste really the raspberry at this point.
Once you get halfway through it, I'll be surprised.
It's really tart. Like, it punches you in the mouth with the tartness and the sour mash. I think it should be either or. That's what I'm trying to get at. It shouldn't be both. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to do a sour mash, you make it a sour mash. If you're going to do a tart, do it tart.
Okay, now.
Okay, so how's your water?
I'm having purified drinking water. And, it's not super fabulous, but for water, it's okay. I've had better water.
Oh. It's bubbly. All right.
Yes.
We're doing pet.
Pet.
Meow.
Wrong kind of pet. This film is rated R. It is 1 hour and 34 minutes long. It's from 2016. And IMDb gives it a score of 5.7 out of 10. It is listed as a horror thriller. We found this film, you can find it on YouTube, Amazon Prime, or Vudu. That's where we found it anyway.
Well, we found it on Amazon Prime, and then they took it off Amazon Prime as a free movie. So we did it with Vudu, with ads to watch it for free.
Yep. The director is Charles Torren. The writer is Jeremy Slater. The cast is Dominic, Monaghan.
Also known as one of the hobbits from Lord of the Rings. Pippin, I think.
Dominic, yeah. Plays Seth. Ksenia Solo is Holly. Jennette McCurdy plays Claire. Jennette, I guess.
That's a name.
Tavon McDonald plays Nate. Nathan Parsons plays Eric. Jennette Song plays Miss Gertie. The full list can be found on imdb.com. And this film was actually nominated for 4 awards. The synopsis for this film is: a man bumps into an old crush and holds her captive underneath the animal shelter where he works.
Nothing says like love like that.
Stalkery kind of love.
I love you so much, I'm going to chain you away.
If I can't have you, no one can.
All right. We open up on an island, and we hear seagulls that turn into an alarm.
Then you see the beach and the ocean and the sound of seagulls. And then you hear an alarm. A man wakes, he eats, and gets ready to leave. He takes the bus to his job at the animal shelter.
He's a
Fun.
He's a kennel technician.
Wow, you make it sound lush.
Pinky's up.
He makes his rounds, feeding the animals. He spends extra time with the German Shepherd.
Named Lexi.
He gets back on the bus and heads home. He talks to a girl on the bus. Her name is Holly. Holly Garling.
They went to school together.
He tells her his name is Seth. He went to Westbrook High. He was in the year above her. They didn't hang out or anything, but he knows who she was. She says, "You know me?" He says, "Sure, everyone did." He says, "Are you a writer now?" She says, "Yes. This waitress uniform is a disguise." He laughs and says, "Yeah, I was about to ask for a sundae with extra sprinkles." She says, "Yeah, well, you wouldn't be the first." She gets off at her stop and says, "Well, it was nice seeing you." He makes a poor attempt at asking her out for coffee, and that's the end of that. He gets home and looks her up on Sleuth, which is like their version of Google, I guess, because, they can't show that on a movie. Sees a profile of her on Peeps Finder.
Stalker book.
And wants to find out everything about her. Who she hangs around, her interest, what she eats and likes, what she likes to do for fun.
And he's making a list and checking it twice.
Nice long list of everything about her.
Pros and cons, yeah.
Come on now, cooperate.
And he also finds out that she is single and has a picture of a dog.
She likes dog. She likes dog. She likes dogs. And this makes him smile. He goes to work the next day and asks the guard, Nate, what to do if you like a girl. Nate isn't happy he asked him this question. Because
we're not like that.
We're not like that, he says.
You and me, we're not like that.
Right. Although he does give him a tad bit of advice and tells him basically, this isn't going to happen again, so don't ask. His supervisor comes to him. She's in a nurse's uniform, so it seems like she's one of the assistants for the doctor, and says the doctor needs him to get the German Shepherd. The doctor is going to put her down.
This is Lexi, the dog that he gets attached to.
He says, Lexi? She says, if you can't do your job, we will find someone who will. So on his way to her kennel, he practices what he's going to tell Lexi as he walks her down the hall to her death. So Lexi is happy to see him when he gets there. He's like, hey Lexi, how are you doing? I'm gonna take you for a walk now. Okay. So the doctor notices he is nervous about putting the dog down. He says, hey, you can have the dog. So he tells the doctor he can't have the dog at his apartment. So the doctor says, so move. He says at $9 an hour, I'm lucky to have running water. The doctor tells him, you should have more gumption.
And he sort of does have a point with that because, it's like he was only making $9 an hour doing pretty much a crap job.
Yeah, at the age that he is.
Yeah, he's, late 30s, early 40s?
Yeah, he's in his 30s. That alone, you should want more, basically. So the doctor tells him, have gumption. Take more initiative to get what you want. Why are you working a crap job at your age anyway?
Yeah.
Trying to give him some sound advice. A kick in the pants. And he tells him, go ahead, do it, get it over with. So he puts the dog down. And here Seth goes, taking the dog out to the furnace after the deed's all over. Furnace, incinerator. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seth hears a strange noise when he's making his rounds. No, when he comes back inside, sorry. He went down the hall and opens a door, but didn't go any further to investigate. Then he continues on just doing his rounds and everything. He goes home to do more stalkery work on Holly. He scans through all of her photos and posts and makes notes on all of her likes and dislikes.
Which I think we went over previously, but no, he doesn't now. So.
Yeah, he didn't make notes before. He was just kind of surfing her information. This time he actually got a notebook and started making physical notes of everything. Like he's studying what she likes, who her friends are, all of that information, intimate information about her. Where she goes, restaurants she goes to, food she likes, things like that. And he practices what he will say to her.
He does find out where she works at, though.
Right. And how he will start a conversation and ask her out to dinner. He goes to the restaurant she works at and sits in the section that she's working. Well, he finally sees her and she comes up to take his order, and she totally has no memory whatsoever of him on the bus. He seems really creepy, and he compliments her hair and tells her she shouldn't be self-conscious about it.
Like he totally gives away that he stalked the crap out of her. By the way, I've been stalking the crap out of you online.
Yeah. He says, you really shouldn't be self-conscious about your hair, at all. You shouldn't be worried about it at all because it looks great.
It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I haven't been stalking you, though.
Right.
Right.
When she checks on him, he asks her out to a show. She says, no, I have a boyfriend. He says, no, you don't.
Yeah. Totally not stalking you.
She leaves the check and walks away.
Pissed.
I would have done more than that. I'd be like, you need to go. Bye.
Well, she said that without saying that. She threw down this check and just walked away without saying anything.
Mm-hmm. So he is totally unaware. He is oblivious to the fact of how very creepy he's being.
But he's also getting more. He's also, before even the whole check thing, he's getting irritated. He's sitting there irritated, eating irritated because she doesn't remember who he is, not even his name. And every time she comes up, he's like, it's Seth. My name is Seth. Mm-hmm. She's supposed to remember him over the thousands of other people that she has to serve on a yearly basis.
Mm-hmm. He tells her to hang on a second as she's walking away. She ignores what he says and walks away. On her way home from work,
we asked her to a concert, and I've worked in the food industry before, and I've been on I've never been a server. I've always been a dishwasher, in the back of the kitchen. But I've heard before when servers get asked out, it's just don't ask people out when they're at work. You're cornering them. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't know you.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, if they're but a lot of times they're flirtatious because they want tips.
Right, and It's just, especially if you're from an area that, like the South, it's kind of our culture to say,
Darling,
sweetheart
honey.
and hun.
Yeah. Sweetheart, darling, things like that.
No matter if you're male or female, that's kind of, it's just how we are.
It's a cultural thing.
Right. So, but some people take that as a flattering thing, or we're trying to
make it more than what it is. Let's just put it that way.
Hit on people or something, but no, that's just, it's politeness when you're from the South. It's just, it's an overtone of politeness, really. It's like a verbal hug, I guess. Yeah. It's not anything.
It's to make you seem familiar, but not welcome, but not.
It's a welcoming thing. Yeah. It's just, it's like a verbal hug, really. It's not trying to flirt or anything like that.
But all of it is also tone. I mean, it can come off as creepy too, depending on the person. There's several people I've don't ever say that ever. I don't care if you're Southern or not. Mm-hmm. Because it comes off as creepy. Right. So, I mean, but my point is that Seth is he's cornering her into an area when she's at work. She has no way to get out. If she gets upset, she loses her job.
Right. But he's been in several places where she's been before. Not just here, so.
But he did it on.
That gives an extra layer of creepiness to it.
But that's just sort of one of my other pet peeves is people who ask out people that are working. Mm-hmm. It's just because I've seen it happen one too many times, and it's just awkward.
It is. So she ignores him and walks away. On her way home, she gets off the bus, and as she walks up her walkway, she feels as if someone is following her. She hears a stick break and looks out of the window if she can see anyone. Well, she hears the stick break. She goes into the door and then up to her apartment and then looks out to see if she sees anyone.
Because Seth is watching you, staring at the bush.
Yeah. Her friend is inside the apartment. She asked her if she has seen a man outside. The friend asks if he was hot. The phone rings. This must be a common event, as the friend knew exactly who it was. It was Eric. The friend, Claire, tries to get Holly to move past events that happened in the past. Move beyond these events. They aren't mentioned in detail, but she just says basically, the past is the past. Move on. Holly says, I can't do that. They have a drink. Holly
goes to her job and there's a massive bouquet. Yep. Of roses. That night, Holly goes to Eric's bar. So there's a, massive, had to be at least.
It's a couple dozen roses.
Yeah. And there's a card on it and it says basically, would you be mine or whatever. No name. That night, Holly goes to Eric's bar because Eric's a bartender. Tells him he needs to stop, and Eric doesn't even know what she is.
Stop doing things like this.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know what she's talking about. And he didn't even know that she liked roses.
Yeah, because she says...
roses are... roses are my favorite.
They're my favorite.
He's like, you like roses? Mm-hmm. He insists she needs to have a beer while he tries to get back with her, basically. He's like, it's, I didn't mean anything. It happened. It's in the past. And guess who walks in? Good old Sethy boy. Holly goes out.
But he's incognito.
Yeah, he's
He's got a beanie on. Nobody recognizes him.
It's the Superman beanie. Mm. Have you ever wondered that? Superman always wears glasses. When he's Clark Kent, he wears glasses. Nobody's like, huh, that looks like Clark Kent, but without glasses. Well, never mind that. All right. Holly goes out for a smoke, and Seth follows.
She says she's going to go get some air.
Yeah, but...
but that means she's going to go get less oxygen by smoking? I never understood that analogy. I'm going to go get some air by actually getting less air.
I'm going to go smoke on a cancer stick.
Never understood that analogy, but okay.
And Seth follows. He tries to make small talk, and she completely ignores him. And Seth just gets more and more irritated by.
Yeah, as she goes back inside, he asked her if she liked the flowers.
And Holly is about to leave. Seth asks if she likes the flowers. And then Holly slaps him upside the head with her bag. Oh, yeah. So Holly is you're the guy from the restaurant. He tries to be all like, we know each other. We went to the same school. Like,
yeah, I'm not some weirdo.
And
she's like, were you following me? He's like, no.
And he tells her he felt something and he just can't walk away from it. That's great. You felt something. Woo! She didn't feel it back. Just leave it alone, stalker. Then he tries to grab her. Then she slaps him upside the head with her bag. Then air comes out to rescue.
No, she opens the door and takes one step inside, and she tells Eric, this guy won't leave me alone, and then Eric punches him.
Yeah.
And then kicks him.
Yeah. And tells Seth to never come back. After that, they leave, and Seth notices Holly's journal.
Yeah, in the scuffle, she drops it, I guess, when she hits him with her bag. So Seth picks it up and takes it home.
Yeah. And then
he did drink the sour beer, but he needs a dog biscuit now because it was so bad. I think Luna will protest, though. So
I'll give the update. So
our friend Seth.
Can we give the update on the beer thing or not?
Oh, I just did.
It's just, it gets really sour. It's just, I'm not into the sour. It leaves a very sour aftertaste.
Yeah.
All right.
So Seth, he stays up all night reading
Holly's journal.
And seems to feel so connected to her by knowing all of this private information. Holly gets home and realizes her journal is gone and freaks out. So Claire asks her if she had written any contact information inside. And she's like, what do you think? She says, you just need to retrace your steps. It should be here somewhere. Seth is back at work and hears the strange noise again. He goes further this time into the hall to scout out what it could be. He walks onto a trap door in the floor. He opens it and climbs down the stairs. Walks down another hall, which leads to a heavy metal door. He opens it and turns on the power. He's now in another room, which is underneath the main part of the building. He looks around, and just like flipping on the power switch in the room, he has an idea.
And the best part of this is that it's been completely forgotten.
So
next we see him ordering welding supplies and constructing a cage. We also see him getting drugs from the cabinet.
He goes to work on his plan to build something new in the room.
Yes. And we also see him injecting himself with something, and he passes out.
Yep, he took some drugs. He stole some drugs. He even tests them out on himself first to make sure they were safe.
Yep. Then we see Holly walking down a deserted road. She hears footsteps. When she turns around, no one is there. We know who's following behind her, though. She walks a little more. She runs into a homeless guy, and she sprays him with something because
it's pepper spray.
He runs into her, she runs into him. She freaks out, sprays him with pepper spray. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? I didn't do nothing. I'm just a man with a cart." Sprays him with pepper spray. He curses. She runs off. Next, we see the homeless man walking. Then we see his camp, and we hear a bottle break. Then a train. Then we see Holly is at home With Seth not far behind, he tries to enter through the door, but it's locked, so he decides to scale the building. We see Holly take some pills. She hears a noise, thinks it's Claire, her roommate, and she walks to the living room. She notices the window is open. She closes it and goes to bed. That's when Seth strikes. He climbs on top of her and injects her with a syringe full of penicillium bromide, paralyzing agent. To make it better, Seth tells her it's safe because he injected it to himself.
Yeah, he says, let's see. He tells her he just injected her with penicillium bromide, a paralyzing agent. It stings a little, but don't worry, it's safe. I know, I tested it on myself.
Then we see obligated horror film of Night of the Living Dead. Now, this film is a horror film.
This is back at the shelter.
Yeah.
It must be the night shift because there's really nothing going on. And I assume that he's probably watching this to keep himself awake.
Yes, but now it has leveled into... This movie has reached into horror film because every horror film has to have this... The Night of the Living Dead playing somewhere at some point in modern history. So then we see Seth dragged in a big box. Nate asks him, what is he doing here? He tells him the boss called, he needed to make a delivery. Then Nate tells him to sign in, which he does. First, we hear Holly thud against the box, and Seth covers it up with a cough. Then Holly gasps, which raises Nate's suspicion. Then Nate's like, what is that? And he's like, they wait a second, and then the crappy AC kicks in, and they just chalk it up to that because the AC is always busted, I guess.
He's like, this place sucks. He goes back to his movie.
Next, we see Holly waking up in a cage as water drips on her face, but what really gets her up is a spider. At first, she tries to find a way out, banging on the cage, screaming. Then she tries the chain and padlock. She is trying to pick the lock with her fingernail, which pulls back, which always gets me. Next, we see Seth on the bus, happy with himself. He goes and visits Holly, and he brings her food. And
he acts like one of those people in a movie to where they're like, oh, the sun is shining, everything is wonderful. I just like somebody in a cage.
Ah, it's great. I kidnapped a girl, I locked her in a cage, and I just wanked off massively.
Okay, then.
And then it just, everything just focused. All right.
I don't think that was necessary, but okay.
And then he brings Holly food. He reintroduces himself. And all she can say is, screw you. So Seth goes, well, maybe we could try this tomorrow. And takes the food with him and leaves. The next day, Seth is doing his job. Mopping. Doing kennel tech stuff. Then he goes and visits Holly. He brings her water, which she just lays there. So he pours it on her mouth, and she starts choking because she's laying down there. Then she starts gasping for air. So Eth urges her to sit up and breathe, and he tells her that he also brought her food, and to take it easy. It's all she's getting. Then he gets up, and she panics and grabs his pants and tells him not to leave. Seth replies,
she can't be doing this. They need to define their relationship, and there are boundaries, and this is not okay.
Ooh, Alpha Seth, engage!
She lets go, and he says, there. He says, tomorrow we will start. Claire talks to Holly, and she says that, don't you know he's going to kill you? Well, maybe he will lose his nerve, chicken out. But you know that. Or maybe he will get bored.
And just leave you.
You're not helping. He doesn't even need a gun, Holly. He can just walk away. You're letting him beat you. That pathetic little piece of,
Little man. Then we see Seth is brushing his teeth. Then Holly decides to use the little girl's bedpan when a rat wanted to be her friend, but Holly decided it didn't need to be her friend and it needed to die. So she smashes it with her foot. The next day, Seth comes down to visit Holly. Holly starts asking questions such as, "Are you going to rape or kill me?" His answer is no. He says he wanted to save her. Then Seth goes on about
how she's special.
How she's special and thought she was different. And when she talked to him, she really saw him. But it was just what she wanted.
He says, "No, you're special. It depends on if I can save you." He tells her she only shows people the version of herself she wants them to see. He sees her, the real her.
Okay, so that's where I got screwed up.
But if there is something left, then it's worth saving. It's a different kind of saving. He knows there is two of her. The Holly she shows to people and the other Holly. The version of Holly when everyone is watching. But we both know that's a lie, don't we? She tells him to go to the place of fire and brimstone, basically.
H-E double hockey sticks.
He says, that's really the question. What Holly is the real one? The Holly on the outside or the other Holly? Because if there is even a chance I can save you, then I will take that. But if not, then you're never gonna leave this room. Nate sees him coming out of the door and tells him, "What are you doing down here? If they catch you in those tunnels," he says, I'm not, so it's not an issue. He tells him, "You need to get your mop because this place smells like dog crap up there." Seth is all like, "Man," and then he goes. Nate shines his light in the door to see if he sees anything amiss in the room. Sees nothing, so he goes on about his business.
Back at the apartment, Seth finishes the journal. Then he goes to the cage, shows Holly he has the journal. He tells her he feels sorry for her, mostly because of her view on love, which is love is just a label for our own biological imperatives. Holly comes back is, "You're going to lecture me on love as you keep a girl in a cage." Well, yes. Yes, I will. Because you're a captive audience. Now listen to me. Then Seth waxes on about love and his conclusion, which is love is sacrifice, giving everything you have to someone else. Holly rebukes Seth, telling him he hates himself and he's a sad little man that thinks the only way he's going to receive love back is by constantly giving or locking a girl in a cage. Then Holly says, "Whatever, I'm not alone." Then Seth asks, "How is Claire these days?" And that hits a nerve with Holly. She denies Claire is in the room, but we see that Seth says at first the way she did the two voices scared him. Then he asks if she is there now. Holly says no. We see Claire behind him. Seth tells her that he thinks she's forgetting what happened and that we have a flashback of all the scenes with Claire, and we find out that Claire is not really there. Then we find out Eric and Holly were engaged, but Eric was having fun with Claire, and Holly found out because Holly read Eric's emails because she had the passwords. Holly decided to play chicken with Claire in the car, and Claire confessed to everything. Then, as they were going across a four-way, a truck came in, T-boned them, and as they sat there cut and bleeding, Claire keeps saying they will be okay. Then Holly takes out a shard of glass that's embedded in her stomach and stabs it into Claire's eye and kills her, and I give that a 4 out of 5.
So Holly tells Seth, "It's just a story. I write fiction." He says, "Yeah, and that's why I didn't go to the cops right away. I followed you around, But you didn't make me wait long.
Then we see Holly killing a slew of other people.
It was a risky move, he says. He witnessed her setting a homeless man on fire. He tells her he thinks she wanted to get caught. He thinks that's why she kept the journal. He says, then punish me. She says, then punish me. He says, no, I'll save you. She says, then do it. Save me. He says, I will. Then do it. He leaves the room. Claire claps her hands. She tells Claire she was just humoring him. Claire says, I hope you still have your head in the game. She says, I don't need your useless pep talks. Or you, Claire. They talk the next day, and he tells her, why did you continue to kill after Claire? She says, once you kill someone like I did Claire, it snapped everything into focus. Then everything made sense. She told him a great shark, when in captivity, will smash its brains out from smashing its head against its tank. She asked what he will do when he comes in, and she's belly up. How will you work with that relationship?
As she starts bashing her head into the cage.
The next day, Seth gets written up due to not doing all of his duties of his job.
Because he's playing around in the tunnels.
One more strike, and he's fired. He takes Holly some food, but not the usual. She asked, where is the rest? He says, I go through hell for you. You think you're in control. When you respect me, then you get what you deserve. She tells him about the wonderful dream she had. About them living together on a beach. It was so real, like this place was a nightmare. And that was the reality. So he offers to get her something from the vending machine. Oh, how manipulative she is. Nate sees him come out of the door, leading to the hall from where she is. He left the hatch open due to him coming right back. So Nate goes through the door and finds Holly. She gets him to turn on the light and try and break the lock. He tries to and asks many questions. She keeps him focused on trying to break the lock while he's freaking out. Seth walks into the room. Holly says, do you know what love is when someone threatens to take someone away you love? You do anything in your power to make sure that doesn't happen. Love is sacrifice.
Yeah, the entire time she's motioning over to Seth to take out Nate.
Seth comes up behind Nate and stabs him. He turns around.
No, he hits him with a flashlight. He has this big mag light, and he hits him upside the head with a mag light. And Nate's like, did you just hit me with a mag light? And then he turns around and he starts.
I don't think he says that until he stabs him.
No, but he just gives that impression of dude, did you just hit me? Mm-hmm. And then he turns around and he starts. And then Nate pins him against the wall and he starts hitting Seth. And Seth takes out this small little knife that
he has. He stabs him. And then he says,
"Yeah,
did you just stab me?"
He stabs him multiple times real quick, in the stomach.
Like a little bitty pocket knife.
Yeah,
it's not anything major.
And Nate's a big fella.
Yeah, he's 6-something, 400 pounds. He's a big dude. Seth is little, he's maybe 5'5" and 110 pounds.
Wet.
I mean, he's tiny, huh?
Wet.
Yeah.
And but the only saving grace that Seth had is that he slashed Nate's hand. And that sort of stunned Nate there for a second. And then Holly tells Seth to bash Nate's head in with a cinder block. So I jumped ahead. Seth gets away. Seth runs. Nate follows. Holly trips Nate. Holly tells Seth to bash Nate's head in with the cinder block. Seth hesitates, and then Seth proceeds to hit Nate 3 times with the cinder block. Holly is getting completely off on this. Holly tells him what to do with the body and how to remove the fingerprints, get rid of the identifiers such as the fingerprints, teeth, tattoos, and then tells him to scatter the teeth. And
scatter those parts different places.
Yeah, and then dispose of the body.
So he cuts up parts of the body and feeds it to the dogs, cuts up the other parts and puts them into the incinerator.
Which sort of bothers me a little bit here, because I think every time you run the incinerator, depending on regulations, you have to have the reason why you're running it. Like, there has to be a log, because it takes so much power to do it, and there's like EPA rules, and never mind. That's real world stuff. And then he incinerates the rest. All the while, Holly is just like playing in blood and just reveling in this death. Seth calls Miss Grundy about Seth running an errand. Later on, he calls Miss Grundy the boss about Seth running an errand.
And hasn't returned.
Nate running an errand, and he hasn't returned. Then that morning, he throws Nate's teeth into the LA River. Yeah.
So Holly has a conversation with Seth.
They have morphed into one.
She tells Seth that the first time is always the hardest. He says, it's not the first, it's an accident. She talks about how enjoyable killing is. And she says, didn't you love the power you felt? She says, maybe you're not meant to save me. Maybe I'm meant to save you. She seduces him.
She tries to.
He leaves.
She goes, I'm cold, and then plunges his hand into her naughty bits.
Yeah. In between her legs.
Yeah.
He gets interviewed by a detective about Nate. And his story is inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Holly refuses to eat at his next visit and doesn't talk. Seth is frustrated and takes it out on his cereal bowl.
Yep.
Seth visits Holly and tells her, I know what you're doing. It's not going to work. She says, if you can't help me and give me what I need, no one can. You didn't give me anything, you only take. He asked, what do you want? She says, proof. A finger.
Yeah.
She asked for his finger as proof.
Because she's saying this is not love, this is ownership. And she needs proof that he does love her, henceforth the finger thing.
He says, no. This is messed up.
Yeah, it really is.
And she proceeds to tell them that I used to think I was the only one. Even when I was a kid, I knew if my family knew who I really was, they would run the other way. So you learn to blend in. Then someone comes along.
Like Seth.
Then you think maybe I can let go of the rope. This person will catch me. At least that's what I keep telling myself.
And she can show
the whole way down.
And she can show her true self.
Right. So he leaves. He goes to leave. She says, don't come back if I'm just a pet. Don't come back for me. He walks down the halls of the kennels, feeling the sun on his face. Really not hearing the dogs, because the dogs are all barking. Mm. He sees the detective talking to his boss. He goes to the locker room and psychs himself up.
He's like freaks the crap out. He just knocks everything over and, he's freaking out.
Then he returns to Holly with the supplies to cut his finger off.
Well, he actually starts massaging it he's like, I have no other option at this point.
He asked her, if I do this for you, will you believe? He says, "This is wrong." She says, "Seth, you love me, and there is nothing more right than that." Then he proceeds to cut a finger off. She grabs the knife as he is distracted.
Yeah, because he cut his finger off.
And orders him to open the door as she holds the knife to her throat. She tells him to open the door. How much more are you ready to lose? He unlocks it and tells him to get back, so he does. She climbs out of the cage, pins him against the wall. She tells him she believes him. She says he saved her. She loves him. She says, "I love you, Seth, and you know what that means," and runs the knife over his throat. He moans and gags and tells Holly not to leave him. Next, Holly is doing physical things with Eric.
No, as he's gasping, Claire opens the door. And then we see Holly leave.
Yeah.
And then we see that she's doing physical things with Eric.
She is talking about being published. He says he thought she would be more excited. She is, but not if it would be published in a well-known paper. He gets a message, and she sees he is talking to someone else. He asked for her to give him his phone. She looks at the chef's knife on the table and passes him the phone. So she had that brief thought of, I could use this knife on him because I know he's cheating on me again. He's a cheater. She goes to a storage building, opens the door, and pulls the plastic off of a very familiar cage. She tells a very messed up looking Seth that she had a bad day with Eric. He is cheating again, and she wanted to hurt him. But she thought about Seth and how much he loves her and what he is doing for her, and she felt better. They caress each other through the bars and stare at each other. And that's the end.
Well, her sort of like whole motivation why she didn't kill Eric is because her whole motivation, she doesn't like the idea that, you know, like some of the questions she has when she murders people is, or the one thing that sort of just runs through her head is once that there's a dog or like a pet waiting for the owner to come.
Well, she said initially that bothered her, but she got over it.
Yeah.
She's like, you can't think about those things.
Yeah. So you want to give your score?
I gave the film a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
And for me, that's quite high. I felt like it wasn't an average film. I'm not sure if there was much I would do to change it. The storyline is good, and the things, pretty much everything is explained. I feel like the main characters have a very unique connection, and they both feed off of each other. This movie can be viewed differently from many different perspectives. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I like the psychological aspect of the regression of Seth being manipulated. I think that was one of the strongest parts of this film. Some of the things I didn't care for was I felt like the dialogue was clunky. We've had that discussion.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty clunky.
Where you said, well, she's a writer, so therefore there's that assumption that people talk the way that they write. But I said, no, it doesn't make any sense to do that. I mean, the lack of slang, even contractions, were, it was just, that was, it didn't sound naturally flowing as a normal conversation does.
Well, that's because the dialogue is made to sound like she maybe has written it.
Yeah.
But that's not the natural flow of how people talk.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
And, and again, sort of like the lack of emotion behind things. Between characters such as the unfriendliness between Nate and Seth, it just felt like... It even felt like they were unfriendly or even just didn't care. It was just sort of like they were there just past... I don't know. I didn't feel like...
Think about the job that they had.
Yeah. Also, I didn't feel there was much emotion during the I don't even know when Seth gets really mad. Like, he just seemed like he was going through the motions of throwing stuff. He didn't seem like he was like really getting mad. And I think that was the biggest issue. Like the ones where you expect a lot of emotion, there wasn't. Like the character was just going through just like, I had to throw stuff now, not like, and it could be, like that aspect. She wrote it, so she doesn't feel emotion, so therefore the characters don't have emotion. You can view it that way.
Well, think about how both of them were. I mean, they both had pretty much psychopathic personalities. Yeah. So people that are psychopathic really don't have...
I guess.
They don't really show emotions like that.
And there was like one or two things that sort of bothered me. So, like, what happened to the rat? I always wonder whatever happened to the rat that she killed.
He's cleaned it up when he came in the room after she smashed it.
I guess I didn't.
And I wrote that down, but I didn't interrupt you because you were going on and you went down a different road. I wrote it down. It showed that he cleaned it up when he came in the room.
I must have missed it. And then, so I was wondering. So another thing is that he only makes $9 an hour. We know that much, but he's able to afford welding, like metal and welding supplies.
Those things they probably already had there.
No, but they show him like ordering off of like Amazon.
It showed him pulling up directions on how to build the cage.
But they showed also him ordering a welding set or something, like a blowtorch. It was a brief second, but they did show a blow, like an Amazon.
It was like instructions on how to build.
It was cage. Before. It was like slightly before that. It was like him. But even then, there was. I mean, you would assume that there would have to be some, like I said, with the incinerator. I'm pretty sure there's a law that you have to, especially in California, you have to, every time you kick it on, you have to write down why you're kicking it on. And, there's regulations behind it because incinerators aren't just willy-nilly.
But I'm sure you have to run it every so often to clean out the system. Yeah,
I know. It's just one thing. But what is your theory on what happened to Seth in the cage? Because obviously we see him that he's blind or he has cataracts.
He looks burned.
Or acid attacked. Like he dripped acid on his face or whatever. He has another finger gone. He has 2 fingers gone now. Mm-hmm. He can't talk. That could be taken from the throat slash. His hair's longer.
Yeah, so she's evidently manipulated him into basically staying in the cage. Getting in the cage for one. And doing all these things to himself in order to prove that she truly does love him.
Yeah. And
so they've reversed roles. Instead of him trying to save her, now she's trying to save him. So evidently she's made him think that he truly got pleasure out of killing Nate. Or guilted him into saying, oh, well, you killed him. You did this or something like that. And
I think she just gets pleasure in seeing him torture himself.
Now he's trying to pay penance for that.
I don't even think it's that. It's just like, love is like, she's like, oh, I'll love you if you pour acid on your face. or...
She's already told him that she loves him.
Yes, but that type of person, I'm just saying to keep that love. I'm not falling out. I'm not feeling it anymore.
I think it would be something deeper than that. Like, he truly carried a ton of guilt for killing Nate.
Yeah.
And the cops aren't going to find him for him to be able to pay for that. Yeah. And like he said, she's keeping that journal because she wants somebody to find out. She wants to pay for what she did.
Yeah. Well,
so him doing that to himself would be him paying penance for those crimes.
Either way, it's just... it's interesting on that aspect.
They left that open to where...
Yeah, you can interpret.
Either they're going to make a second one, which they probably won't. Most films nowadays don't have a sequel.
Honestly, I don't think a sequel would be good for this one.
Or they left it open, to where you could say, well, maybe this happened or maybe that happened,
I think that was...
So that's fun
Yeah.
for this film to where you can kind of come up with your own analogies.
I think... Honestly, though, before I even watched this film, I heard so much hype about it. Like, one thing that people were saying was this was a hard film to watch. And to me, it wasn't that bad. I was sort of expecting a hard...
But a lot of films like Teeth and... We looked at the list of, like, the top 20 films that are horrific to watch, and over half of them we've already seen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I cringed at Teeth, but nothing like, oh...
Well, that's because it's like, I like to keep my, sausage on my body and not stick it in there, so...
Yeah.
I don't even have those parts, and I was like, wow, ouch.
But other than that...
Oh, I had more, sorry.
Yeah.
I guess it... I did have more. To me, it does seem more like a psychological thriller than a horror film, but we've talked about that before, too. Mm-hmm. It's more like a psychological thriller with horror aspects because, it does have murder, dismemberment, and blood, but it is more of a psychological thriller-based film. I did like the fact that she was able to write a story that most believe to be fiction, but it was actually about the events of her life. And she got it published, and it was believable.
Well,
imagine if somebody did that in real life. That's one thing I like most about this film is these events could happen in real life.
And I'm not saying, I'm saying that...
And that's one thing you typically like about a lot of films is this is believable. Like, these events could actually happen.
I know, it's just the dialogue just got really clunky.
The dialogue is kind of... It is. It's not really that it's clunky because that just means that it's frivolous. It is too wordy. But it just...
It didn't feel naturally...
It's not natural. It's not how people talk. It's written language that shouldn't be spoken the way they're speaking it. That's how people would write. That's formal writing. But that's not how people would actually talk naturally.
I think that was my biggest, thing about this. It was like...
So it almost makes it seem pretentious.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was just... It seemed like a very pretentious film. And...
Well, the dialogue makes it feel that way. And maybe they wrote it that way because she is a writer. But I'm from that field and I probably wouldn't have written it that way because it doesn't make sense for what it is.
But other than that, do you recommend watching it?
I do. I think it's a really good film, and I think most people, especially people that like horror or psychological thrillers, would probably enjoy it.
But this is definitely more of a psychological aspect compared to
horror. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like psychological, this is not a movie for you. If you like psychological, this is a movie for you. If you like slasher, hacker, horror, this doesn't bridge that. There's one scene and it's not even that incredible.
There's two scenes.
Yeah, okay, but...
Because the accident scene and then the main one.
But it's not enough to keep somebody who's into the...
If you were into slashers and that's what you were looking for, then you have to get midway through the film before it shows anything, so it would drag on for that, as far as that goes. So,
but it's not even that gratifying. It's not. I mean, there's far other superior slasher films for that.
That's kind of the point that we're trying to make.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know, but I mean, that's just...
Yeah, if you're looking for that, then this is not the film that you need to watch.
This is not a bridging film. This is just definitely psychological with some blood in it.
Yep.
So, other than that,
this is definitely not a film for children. Most of them are not that we do. So,
I think generally people get the general consensus of that. So,
I just hope you put a warning on there because I think we've forgotten to do that.
It's because we're such a niche market. Like, we're in such a niche market. I don't know. I guess I can, but nobody reads, so get into that all the time at work. So, anyway,
I think that's all.
Yeah.
Scare you later.
Bye.
You are